My name is Ethan Miller, and this story happened in 2021 when I was working as a nursing assistant at Cook County Hospital in Chicago, Illinois. I had just completed my second year at the hospital and was already used to difficult cases, critical patients, and exhausting shifts. But nothing prepared me for what I experienced that night. It was a Thursday. My night shift started at 7 p.m. and ended at 7 a.m. The hospital was crowded, especially the emergency department. It was very cold outside, with heavy snow, and many people were coming in because of car accidents and breathing problems. The whole place felt tense, but that was normal for that hospital. Around 2:40 a.m., we received a patient brought in by the police. His name was Thomas Avery, 43 years old. He had been found inside an abandoned building on the south side, disoriented and in panic. He was covered in scratches and bruises, shaking badly, completely confused. When we tried to talk to him, he only repeated the same sentence, staring at nothing. "They're coming back. They're coming back. Don't let them get me." The police thought he was under the influence of heavy drugs, but the tests showed nothing, no substances in his blood. What was strange was his look, completely empty, like he was seeing something no one else could see. We placed him in one of the isolated rooms in the temporary psychiatric ward, and I was responsible for monitoring his vital signs. While I was adjusting the heart monitor, I felt a strong chill when I noticed he was staring at me without blinking. He asked, in a weak voice, almost whispering, "Can you hear them walking around here at night?" I said no, and he started shaking even more, like he was going into shock. The heart monitor spiked and began beeping wildly. I tried to calm him down, but he panicked and started screaming for help, saying they were at the door trying to get in. But the hallway was completely empty. I called the team, we gave him a mild sedative, and he finally fell asleep. Silence returned, but the night was far from over. At 3:17 a.m., the alarms in the ward went off. It was Thomas's room. 2 other nurses and I ran there. When we opened the door, the room was completely destroyed. The bed flipped over, the 4 stand on the floor, and the heart monitor ripped off the wall. But that wasn't the worst part. Thomas was gone. I swear it took us less than 40 seconds to reach the room after the alarm went off. And yet, he had completely vanished. The room had no windows, and the door was locked from the inside when we arrived. No one could explain how he got out. Security was called immediately. They reviewed all the hallway cameras and every exit. He did not appear on any of them. No record. Not entering the room. Not leaving it. It was as if he had evaporated inside the hospital. The police returned, questioned everyone, and a missing person protocol was opened. They searched for hours. Nothing. No sign of him until morning. The most disturbing part came later. At the end of my shift, exhausted and shaken, I was putting away my equipment when one of the cleaning staff, an older woman named Rosa Alvarez, came up to me and whispered, "This isn't the first one to disappear like that." I froze. I asked her what she meant, but she just shook her head and said, "There are things in this hospital no one can explain. It's better not to get involved." Then she walked away down the empty hallway, pushing her cleaning cart. I stood there, not knowing what to think. That cold feeling ran up my spine, the same one I felt when I first looked into Thomas's eyes. I went home almost shaking. To this day, Thomas Avery has never been found. The case remains unsolved. No evidence, no clues, no body. And I never worked another night shift with the same peace of mind again. My name is Andrew, and I have worked as a paramedic in the state of California for almost 10 years. This story happened in 2017 when I was serving in San Bernardino County. To this day, it is one of the most disturbing and difficult situations I have ever experienced, and whenever I think about it, I feel a tightness in my chest and a sick feeling in my stomach. It was early Saturday morning, around 3:50 a.m., when we received an emergency call over the radio. The initial report said that a woman had been found unconscious at home, in critical condition, with a suspected overdose. Address: Highland Avenue, San Bernardino. When we arrived at the scene, the house was extremely quiet. The lights were off, the door was slightly open, and there was no sound except the wind moving through the trees. We went inside calling out, but no one answered. We found the woman lying on the living room floor, unconscious, with weak breathing and a very low pulse. Her name was Rebecca Turner, 29 years old. We immediately started stabilization procedures and rushed her to ARMC, Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, which was only a few minutes away. I sat in the back of the ambulance next to her, monitoring her vital signs. During the ride, she suddenly woke up with a terrified look and grabbed my arm with incredible strength. I will never forget the way she looked into my eyes when she whispered, "Don't let him in, please. Don't let him get close to me." I tried to calm her, telling her she was safe and that we were almost at the hospital, but she became desperate, pulling off the heart monitor wires and trying to loosen the stretcher straps. I held her hands and repeated, "Rebecca, it's okay. We're going to help you." But she only kept repeating, crying and barely able to breathe. "He's going to find me. He always finds me. I don't want to die here." A few seconds later, she went into cardiac arrest. We started CPR and gave medication as the ambulance sped up. We reached the emergency room in just minutes, but it was too late. At 4:21 a.m., Rebecca was pronounced dead. I was shaken. I had seen people die before, of course, but not like that. Not with that much panic. Not begging like that. The most disturbing part was still to come. As part of the protocol, we had to record basic information and catalog her personal belongings. Among her items was a cell phone with a cracked screen. When I handed it to the nursing staff, it vibrated with a new message notification. The contact name froze my blood. "He's outside." The nurse and I immediately looked at each other. We quietly pulled back the curtain in the emergency room and looked through the glass window toward the hospital parking lot. It was completely empty. No cars arriving, no people walking, nothing. The phone vibrated again. Another message. "Don't let him find you." The nurse turned pale and said she would hand the phone directly to the police. Minutes later, 3 officers arrived and began a preliminary investigation. And then something happened that I will never forget. While the police were there, the phone received one last notification. "Look behind you." Everyone froze. By instinct, I slowly turned around. The hallway was completely empty, but the feeling of being watched was overwhelming, as if someone was standing there in the dark. And the strangest part, the automatic emergency door, which only opens when someone triggers the sensors, opened by itself, slowly, and then closed again. No one had walked through it. The officers stood there in silence. None of us said anything. There was nothing to say. Days later, I was called in to give a statement. We learned that Rebecca had a restraining order against an extremely violent ex-partner named Mark Henson, who had disappeared months earlier. He was never found, neither alive nor dead. And to this day, no one knows who was sending those messages. All I know is that that night, as I stared down the empty hospital hallway, I felt a fear so real and so deep that I was never able to work a shift again without looking over my shoulder. And every time an automatic door opens more slowly than it should, I remember Rebecca grabbing my arm and saying, "He always finds me." My name is Lucas, and in 2019 I worked as a night security guard at Bellevue Hospital in New York City. It was a temporary job while I was trying to save money to move to another state. I always liked working at night because it was quieter, less movement, fewer people talking and running through the halls. But in that hospital, silence never meant peace. Bellevue is one of the oldest hospitals in the United States. It is huge and full of long corridors. At night, almost everything is dark, except for a few weak lights showing the way. The hallways feel endless. And any sound, a metal cart rolling, a monitor beeping, echoes as if it's coming from all directions at once. That specific night, I was covering the old wing of the building, a section that was barely used because it was under renovation. There were a few isolated rooms there for unstable patients, and just walking past that area felt tense. Even when it was empty, there was this strange feeling that someone was watching. It was 2:58 a.m. when I received a call over the radio. Room 614. Patient monitor out of range. Visual check required. The moment I heard that, I felt a chill. That room had been closed for weeks. There was no patient assigned to it. I answered on the radio, thinking there had been a mistake, and the nurse at Central Control replied, "Confirmed. Heart sensor detected movement and increased heart rate." That made no sense at all. I grabbed my flashlight and headed there. The entire wing was completely dark. Every step echoed on the tile floor. My reflection appeared in the dark windows, like someone else walking beside me. When I reached the door to room 614, I stopped for a few seconds to breathe. The door handle was ice cold, even though the heating was on. When I opened the door, the room was empty. No bed, no equipment, just the heart monitor attached to the wall, beeping loudly as if it was recording a fast heartbeat. 140 BPM. Like someone was in panic. But there was no one there. I walked closer, trying to stay calm. When I touched the monitor to check the cables, the alert switched to red mode and started sounding the cardiac arrest alarm. That loud, urgent sound filled the entire room. Suddenly, I heard someone running down the hallway behind me. Fast, heavy footsteps, like someone running away from something. I turned immediately and pointed my flashlight down the hall, but it was completely empty. The footsteps continued, but now they sounded like they were right behind me. I had a clear feeling that someone was about to touch my shoulder, but when I turned around, there was no one. I called for backup on the radio. The other security guard on shift, Jessica Romero, arrived a few minutes later. She stared at the beeping monitor and asked, "Who was in here?" I told her no one. She frowned, confused, and said we should unplug the device and report it as a system failure. But when she reached to pull the power cable from the wall, the monitor shut off by itself, instantly, as if it had been ripped out. The screen went black. Silence filled the room again. Jessica looked at me, clearly scared, and said, "Let's leave. Now." I agreed immediately. We left quickly, and as we closed the door, we heard something fall inside the room. A loud metal crash, like an equipment cart tipping over. We opened the door again right away. The room was exactly the same. Nothing had moved. The next day, we filed the report and sent it to administration. They reviewed the security footage, including the hallway cameras. That's when the worst part happened. The recordings showed me entering room 614 alone. Minutes later, Jessica arrived. But during the 40 seconds when I heard the footsteps running behind me, there was no sound, no shadows, and no one passing through the hallway. Just me, standing there, turning around again and again, as if I was seeing someone the cameras simply could not see. The administration classified the incident as a technical malfunction and a stress-induced psychological event. But I know what I felt in that hallway. The feeling of someone breathing near the back of my neck. The certainty that I was not alone. The sound of footsteps running straight toward me. I left Bellevue 2 weeks later. I never worked another night shift. And to this day, whenever I hear the sound of a heart monitor beeping, my entire body freezes.